My name is Raff Donelson. I am an assistant professor of law at Penn State Dickinson Law School, which is a small law school in the Penn State system, just about 10 minutes out of Harrisburg, which is the capital.
Can you name for us three things that brought you to Williams College?
Yeah. So one of them, oddly enough, is location. I really wanted to move to Massachusetts. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I'm back here now, but I really liked Massachusetts at the time for a lot of reasons. The other one, of course, is the academics. I was really drawn to the fact that Williams was the #1 ranked liberal arts school in the country.
Yes, we are.
That was wonderful. And community. I actually visited Williams before I matriculated, and I found it really, really wonderful, the people that I got to meet. I visited some other schools and just didn't feel the same way.
Did you visit Amherst?
I did not visit Amherst.
Good call. They didn't even deserve the visit.
No. Visited other schools in Massachusetts.
Awesome. So what was your major, Williams, and how did you become interested in your kind of current discipline?
Yeah, so I was just a couple of classes short of triple majoring, but I double majored in philosophy and political science, and then I did the French certificate. I was thinking hard about doing that French major, but time was ticking. I went to Williams thinking that I wanted to become an attorney. Williams offered a lot of opportunities for me to get to meet and network with attorneys, and I saw during that time that I probably didn't want to be an attorney. It seemed kind of hard and stressful. And so I was kind of still interested in kind of legal research. So I thought maybe I could teach law. And so that's what, through a circuitous route, I ended up doing.
What fascinates you? What is one thing that fascinates you about like your specific line of work?
So much. I mean, the law is an area where basically anything that you could be interested in, the law touches on in some way or other. So I study philosophy and political science. And so I was really interested in just general questions about justice and rights. And obviously law has a kind of obvious place for that. Another thing that I was really interested more so when I was an undergraduate than I am now was medical technologies. So I was really interested in bioethics courses, which I took basically all the courses that there were in that at Williams at the time. And the law obviously has a thing to say about that too. So it's, the law is this really interesting space where pretty much any interest you have, there'll be something that, where it somehow affects it. You can kind of think about how the law should affect or change or modify or enhance anything that you're currently interested in.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And like, what do you kind of focus on in terms of law? What kind of law do you focus your research on when you're teaching on?
Yeah, so in general, I work on kind of criminal issues and constitutional issues. A little bit more specifically, I spent a lot of time writing about theories of punishment, or what kind of thing punishment is supposed to be, what it's supposed to achieve. A good chunk of my research has been about that. Also, I've written a lot about people who aren't exactly punished, but they're somehow under the control of the state for one reason or other. Maybe they're in jail awaiting a trial. Maybe they are in some type of detention for immigration reasons, or some other reason while they're detained or in the control of the state. And what are the rights of those people? There's kind of a certain kind of protections once you are for sure convicted of a crime, but the area and levels of protection for people who aren't quite there yet has yet to be kind of theoretically fleshed out, and I've spent some time thinking about those folks.
What is one piece of advice you have for kind of Williams students looking to get into academia, or kind of what the differences were between like practicing it and teaching it?
Yeah, okay, so two things. So first, about advice for if you want to enter the academy. Of course, figure out what you want to do in the academy. The career paths are really different for different sorts of academicians. So I wanted to be a law school professor in part. And what you have to do is you have to go to law school. Even if you're going to be a philosopher who focuses on philosophical issues, it's pretty uncommon to be like a PhD in philosophy only and get a job at a law school.
Yeah.
It also is very unusual to be a law professor who's never practiced law. or who's done very limited practicing law like I have. And so
Yeah.
you kind of have to figure out like, what are the places that are going to allow that? What are the credentials of people who do seem to achieve that?
Like, what are the differences, would you say, between like practicing it and teaching it to others?
Yeah. So yeah, they're pretty different. So one of the things is just kind of pace. When you're in the classroom, well, first of all, you kind of set your own pace about how things go. Like if you're the professor, you set the curriculum in each classroom, especially when you are teaching at the college or university level. You have a good deal of control over like what things we cover, how fast, how much detail I get to go into, how deep a dive I can go into something. When you're in practice, by contrast, the schedule is often set by external actors of various sorts. And so you may have to just like, I need to know about this question. I only have an hour of time to like think about it, and that's it. Like I have that hour and that's it, and then I have to go into something else. So that's one thing. You, for the most part, especially early on, don't really get to choose the cases that you have. You may have control over the general practice area, but within that, the clients that walk in the door, or they're get assigned to you by a partner in a much larger place, are the ones that you have. Whereas the topics that you think about as an academic are completely of your choosing. If I wanted to stop writing about punishment stuff and start writing about tax law, well, I could do that if I wanted to. Nobody to stop me. My dean isn't going to be upset with me if I'm doing something different. So those are some major differences.
Right. So you're more like intellectually curious about it as opposed to kind of wanting to like do it directly.
Yeah. So two of the experiences that I had at Williams are things that kind of helped me make that decision. One, I took a voting rights class, maybe my sophomore year. And during that class, I got to meet two attorneys that worked for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, which was at the time exactly what I thought I wanted to do with my life. Like all I wanted to do was like go to law school after Williams and then work at a major nonprofit law firm doing like great public interest work.
Yeah.
But then I talked to both of them about like what their experiences were like, and they were interesting, but definitely not what I was interested in. And so the one attorney told me about the fact that the Legal Defense Fund would not hire him out of law school, and he had to work somewhere else for a couple of years to get more experience. And then once he got that more experience and finally was like eligible to work at the Legal Defense Fund, he found out that, of course, the salary was like half of what he had been getting fresh out of law school. And that the job involved a lot of travel. And it's not, voluntary travel. It's just like, here's where we have some cases and some problems for you to investigate. You have to go down here for 6 months.
Right.
And he mentioned like he had a, family that he wanted to be nearby, and
right.
Too bad you have to do that now. And by contrast, as an academic, I do some travel as well, but almost all of this is purely of my choosing. I can decide whether or not I'm going to travel for conferences or to promote a book or something of this sort. It's totally of my choosing, as opposed to like, here's where you have to go, here's your next assignment, see you in 6 months. So that was one experience. Another experience that I had during one of my winter studies, I got to shadow a judge who did juvenile justice work, which is another thought that I had later, like maybe this will be better if I could like work in the juvenile justice court. And I just found this really, really depressing, dealing with the sorts of issues that happen in juvenile court. There's kind of two main kinds of issues, like abuse cases, like child abuse types of cases, and then juvenile delinquencies that are often really sad in their own ways. And I, my time in that winter study was just very dark. I mean, not just like January in Williamstown is very dark.
That doesn't make it better, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make it better.
It's just cherry on top. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's definitely, you gotta like enjoy like what you're doing in terms of like, I guess your mental state. That's definitely sad. If Williams was an ice cream, what kind of flavor would it be?
Definitely. Well, let's think about it for a minute. I had an idea, but let's think. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with this. I think it's definitely Neapolitan. Williams is so many different things. It's this mix. And yeah, when I arrived there, it was by far the most diverse place I had ever been. And I,
Mhm.
didn't grow up in some small homogenous town. I grew up, in the suburbs of a large city.
Yeah.
And nevertheless, yeah, it's just this still very diverse place where like you're apt to hear different languages and people from all around the world with really, really different experiences, like just wildly different experiences from one
Yep.
another. And yeah, it was I mean, not just through the academics, but through just interacting with people, I felt like I learned about the world in a very deep way that I feel like I still haven't learned as much as quickly in my 10 years since.
Yeah, that is definitely a melting pot, and I can tell you that's still true. Um, if you were an ice cream flavor, what would you be?
Oh, um, I probably would be what is my favorite ice cream flavor, which is cinnamon.
Ooh,
Cinnamon ice cream is a little bit hard to find,
I was gonna say.
and it's far too sweet.
That's you. Just hard to find and far too sweet. That's perfect. Um, what is your favorite artist of all time? Could be musical, could be kind of performance-wise, whatever.
uh,
Painter.
it's probably Caravaggio in terms of the painter. Caravaggio is like embodies all the things that I really like and aspire to be in a way. He's good at his craft. He's a little bit edgy, which I think is fun.
Mhm.
But then, like, he's this kind of like classic, um, how to call it, a classic kind of like slightly out of control type of artist who's like slightly sometimes getting in trouble with the law and getting in trouble with various conventions. And I gotta think that this is cool. Like I aspire to be this kind of slightly more interesting type. And that, yeah, I like Caravaggio. I like this about Caravaggio. And of course, the art that he makes is really beautiful. I really like the Renaissance. He's kind of a later Renaissance person.
Mhm.
But yeah, so that's he's probably my favorite, just as a person. Like
Yeah,
he's goals.
that's a great answer. Yes, I like that. Um, what is a book you're currently reading for kind of fun, or like did you read this year?
Yeah, so the book that I'm currently reading is a book called Other Minds. It is about octopus and squids.
Ooh, okay.
So it's about the fact that you know, humans, dolphins, whales, this is, and this kind of mammalian great intelligence is one kind of intelligence that evolution has produced on our planet. But the cephalopods, the octopus and squid, are this really different kind, and they're not deeply related to us at all. And as the author of the book, who's a philosopher of mind, Peter Godfrey Smith, as he said, it's like encountering an octopus is probably the closest we'll ever come to meeting an intelligent alien, because they're just, octopus, octopi, squid, all these cephalopods are just like, they're so different from us. The way they interact is so different from us. Like they're unlike with, say, a chimpanzee or a dolphin, that like there's a sense in which they kind of look like us. Like they have, just two eyes and mouth and four limbs, and like there's some similar stuff going on.
Yeah.
Like an octopus is just like completely different in every respect. Like, different limbs and like all these eyes, and just like they're just wildly different. No backbone. Their nervous system works in ways we don't still understand. You have no idea what to say about how they're communicating.
Yeah.
It's just so wildly different. And so yeah, I'm learning more about these strange creatures.
I think I've definitely seen like alien movies that are based their aliens off of octopuses, like for sure.
Yeah, Arrival being one of them.
Arrival. I was just thinking of Arrival. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Great movie. Thank you so much, Mr. Donelson, for taking your time to talk with us.
It was really great getting to meet you and getting to get a little bit more from what's happening at Williams nowadays.